Welcome back to Don't Forget the Champagne. I'm Nichelle, and this is Wedding Planning 101. Today we're going to be talking about florals. And florals are a part of a wedding that I think are really important. They really help to create the atmosphere of your wedding day. They add something really soft and romantic. If that's the vibe you're going for. They can also create something really modern. They really tend to be the central point of creating the atmosphere, the style, the decor for your wedding day. But they can also be really expensive. And it's something that on this scale, not a lot of people have done before. So today we're going to be talking about how to find a florist that's going to be a good fit for you and help guide you through this floral process and make sure that everything goes according to plan and that your budget stretches as far as it can within the floral world. So the first thing I want to touch on, and the first thing that I think you should think about, is your floral budget. I think this is one of the areas where you have the most flexibility because you can do the most. I'm sure I see all the time, maybe you've seen on Instagram too, those international weddings where like the walls are completely covered in orchids. Obviously that's gonna be like hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe not within your budget. No, it's certainly not within mine. But you can also do something super simple. Within florals, you can make a little bit of money go a long way, or you can spend a ton of money. So you do have a really wide range of flexibility where you might not have in catering, where you're gonna have to feed every person. Yes, there might be some difference between a really simple meal versus something really elegant, but at the end of the day, you're gonna have to feed every mouth. With florals, you might not have to do a floral centerpiece at every table. You could skip the bouquets. You have a lot more freedom and flexibility to create something that will work for your budget. So some things to think about when you're just thinking about budget and also trying to like brainstorm what this might look like is the more flowers, typically the more expensive. Flowers really range dramatically in price based on seasonality, how easy they are to grow. An orchid is going to be a lot more expensive than like a carnation. But a lot of times you're paying per bloom. And I would say for most blooms, you're looking anywhere at like $5 to $10 per like bloom, per like flower. Obviously this can range, and if you're doing something that's like super in season or something that's really small and like baby's breath, they're not charging you per little nugget of flower. But if you're doing like a rose or something like that, that's what you're looking at for that. So when you start looking at arrangements online, you're looking on Pinterest, that can help you get just like a basic idea of where these arrangements might be falling budgetarily. Like I said, there's a lot of difference within that range, but just something to be aware of. Also, greenery costs money. So even if you're doing something that is largely greenery, again, depending on the type of greenery you do and depending on how it's installed, the price range can vary dramatically. This is something that you really want to spend time talking with a florist about if you can, because they're going to have the best insight into how to turn your vision into reality. But I think sometimes at least having kind of a baseline understanding that things within this realm are pretty expensive and being able to kind of guesstimate how much something might cost will help you from getting like your dreams crushed when you're like, I have a $5,000 floral budget and I want a Kim Kardashian flower wall, and recognizing that those two probably don't go together. You kind of have a professional florist option, which is the option for most people I recommend, or a DIY option. And the DIY option is really challenging because you have to, just like with catering, you have to do it like the day before. You can't do it days ahead of time, where if you're doing larger decor pieces, you can do those whenever you have time. But with flower arrangements, you're gonna wanna do it like the day before. Most people aren't gonna have access to like the floral refrigerators that florists have, and things like that will help prolong the longevity of your flowers. So without access to those, you're gonna be working the day before on a lot of things. And because of this, sometimes it can actually wind up costing you similar amount to like a budget florist, because you have to pay for, you know, additional flowers. You probably want to do practice ones beforehand. So I would encourage you to talk with a professional florist to help you just figure your stuff out and make sure that you're on the right track. You can also do a mix. You don't have to do everything through a florist. If you do hire a florist, maybe they're doing all the bouquets for you, but you're gonna do non-floral or really simple floral centerpieces, and you feel comfortable doing that yourselves. I think that's also something to consider if you're trying to keep things in budget, but also not trying to pull your hair out the day before your wedding. I would, particularly with bouquets, these can be really stressful the day before your wedding day. I would really encourage you to practice if you are gonna do one ahead of time, and also make sure you're watching like lots of YouTube videos, taking a class, making sure you have some idea what you're doing, because it's a lot harder than you might anticipate to really create a beautiful bouquet. I also briefly want to touch on silk flowers versus Rio flowers. I don't know a ton about it. I know there's a company here in Colorado that does a lot of silk flower arrangements, and if you guys would be interested in me chatting with them and kind of learning a little bit more about that process, let me know, and I can definitely reach out to them and we can see if we can make that happen. I think silk arrangements have really come a long ways, and you can really have beautiful flowers. I personally don't think I've ever worked a wedding that had silk flowers instead of Rio flowers, but I know that's something that is becoming more and more of like a beautiful option, and also can be something that helps with your budget. So let me know if you want more on that. Like I said, I don't know a ton about it, but I would be super interested to learn more if you're interested in learning more. Now let's talk about the fun part of flowers, or at least what I think is the fun part. Figuring out what your floral style looks like. There is a lot that goes into this, and weddings can look really, really different depending on what you're going for. Are you looking for something like really tight, like a tight ball of roses with very little greenery? Or are you looking for something more flowing, loose, that looks like maybe you gathered it in the forest in the morning, like you're a Disney princess? Both can be really stunning and beautiful, but floral designers are probably going to specialize in one or the other, so you should spend some time figuring out where you fall on the spectrum. And it is really a spectrum between like super, super tight and super loose. Another thing you want to consider is color. How much color do you want? Do you want like a ton of beautiful colors? Do you want the whole rainbow in your bouquet and your centerpieces? Or are you going for something really monochromatic? Only blush roses, or only, you know, greenery, no flowers at all? Another thing you should consider before reaching out to florists is, are there any specific blooms you are just in love with? Are you in love with, I've been seeing these like protea, I don't know if I'm saying that right, florists out there let me know, but these big princess proteas that have this really unique look all over the place. They're these huge flowers. Maybe you're in love with those, or maybe just like roses or peonies, or you love sunflowers. I think if there are any specific blooms, you should have those in mind. One, because it's helpful for your florist to kind of get a better sense of what you're looking for. And two, because sometimes if you're going for a really expensive bloom, they can offer alternatives. I think reference photos are super duper helpful for florals, and I think you should have a bunch from every aspect. So you want bouquets and boutonnieres and centerpieces and altars and arches, and anything that you're going to want florals on, you should have a few reference photos. Again, this is just your starting point, but this is going to help you and your florist figure out whether you guys are on the same page, whether this is doable for them within your budget, because you want to make sure that is all possible before you sign any contracts. Then, when you're talking with florists, you also want to find out what's included in their packages. Some florists also do like full design work, and some will just like deliver the flowers. So you want to kind of figure out where they fall again on that spectrum. Are they going to design everything? Are they going to help you pick out like napkins and plates as well as doing your centerpieces? Or are they really just there to deliver flowers? Both can be great. They are just different for different weddings. Also check in with them about the setup and pickup process. What does that look like? Will they fully do setup? Will they come pick things up, or are you going to be responsible for returning things that you rent? Do they rent things? Ask those sorts of questions so you can figure out kind of the scope of their work, because it really does vary from florist to florist. Now I'm going to do a big long list of all the flowers you can consider, because I think it's very easy to miss sections of flowers because there's a lot. So I have the notes down here, so that's why I'm looking down here. For your ceremony, you'll probably want to consider some altar flowers, whatever that looks like. So if you're getting married in a church, maybe it's just a couple or one big arrangement in front of the actual altar that's there. If you're getting married in an outdoor space, maybe that's creating like an arch behind you. Maybe there's something specific to your tradition, like a huppah if you are having a Jewish ceremony. Things like that. I think you also want to look into flower petals if that's something you want to do. A lot of times you can order those through your florist pretty inexpensively for your flower girl, or if you're doing, you know, throwing petals as you leave. And then also any aisle decorations that you're going to want to have. So if you're going to have, a lot of times you see them at the back of the aisle, right? When people walk down, there's some decorations there. And then all the bouquets. Bride's bouquet, typically like the largest bouquet is the bride's. And then all your bridesmaids. typically boutonnieres for your groom and your groomsmen, and then corsages can sometimes be done as well for mother of the bride, mother of the groom, grandmas, those sorts of people. And then for your reception, the big thing is centerpieces, but there can also be a ton of other stuff. Are they gonna do a floral flower wall? A floral flower wall. Are they gonna do something really special for the head table? Are you gonna have something cool on the dance floor? So you can really kind of get creative there with reception, and really with anywhere in your wedding. There are some florists that just do such unique, beautiful pieces, and they really are artists. And so I think working with them, especially if you're picking one who has a little bit more of a design background and does more full design, I think you should really be open to their suggestions and working with them to create something really beautiful and unique for your wedding day. Okay, so that's kind of it on picking the flowers. I have a full blog post that talks about all the things that you should know when you're working with a florist, kind of from beginning to end. So this was about just getting your head in the game. But if you want Florals for Weddings 102, I'll link that blog post below. And if you have any additional questions about florals, or you want me to kind of talk more in depth about those next steps, let me know in the comments below. And I think that's it. So I will talk to you guys soon. If you are looking for more wedding planning videos, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. We've got some fun stuff coming out soon. And like this video if it was helpful for you. All right, I will see you guys soon. Bye.